We've been drowning in JRPGs all year, so in hindsight, we can go back and decipher which ones are actually worth buying and which ones didn't live up to the hype. As we approach the holiday season, a lot of those JRPGs are going to start going on sale, which is going to be a peak time for you to pick them up. With that being said, these are my top 10 JRPGs of 2024, worth returning to buy when you catch them on a sale if you haven't already. This should have been an easy guess. Metaphor Refantazio is my game of the year, not just JRPG, but game of the year. It's easily worth the $60 price tag, so if you can get it even a penny cheaper, it's gonna be money well spent. Metaphor Refantazio is from the same developers of Persona and takes the Persona formula into a fantasy world. In this world, the king is killed abruptly, which triggers an election that allows anyone who gains favor of the people to become the next king. There are two frontrunners opening up the game, one with a militant background who initiated everything by assassinating the king, and the other who is a religious figure that leads a church. Both have different ideologies, but you and several other underdog candidates take their swing at the throne, bringing your own ideologies to the table. Combat is a unique blend of turn-based and action-based combat, but revolves around a class system known as archetypes. These archetypes can be equipped to party members to give them unique skill sets and also have synergy abilities that are going to depend on which archetypes you have in your party. New archetypes are unlocked as you bond with your followers by doing social links that further flesh out the backstories of those characters. Metaphor Refantazio is about a 65-hour journey that's going to have you immersed for every second of it. I recommend Metaphor Refantazio for anyone who loves a story with deep world building. I go into even more detail in my review of Metaphor Refantazio, which you can find on the channel, along with reviews for the majority of all the games on this list. I'm only going to state that here to prevent constantly repeating myself every section, so if you need more information for you to make your decision, feel free to check out the reviews on my channel. Megaton Musashi Wired is one of the bigger sleepers on this list and also the sponsor of today's video. Thanks to Level 5, here's a free Steam code for the base game to reward the early birds, but now let's talk about Megaton. Megaton Musashi Wired is set in the future where Earth has been taken over by aliens. The survivors, the few that did, live in a sheltered city with their memories wiped so that way they can live peacefully without experiencing that trauma of knowing about the Earth's destruction that previously took place. Now, there are a few people in the know, and they are going to operate giant robots called Musashi, and they're going to lead the rebellion to fight back against that alien threat. Now, where I think Megaton really shines is going to be its fluid combat, the addicting upgrading loop, and its in-depth mech customization. You'll have 6 different weapons, which is a crazy amount, but 3 are going to be melee and 3 are going to be ranged, and you're going to be able to use those in addition to your special moves to tackle missions. All of the different weapons from the 6 that I listed are going to have different benefits, and they're going to be customizable to your playstyle or your stylistic choice. You're going to be able to clear quests online with friends, and this includes crossplay between platforms, or just play offline solo to rack up a ton of item drops to help build out your mech and make it as strong as possible. Once you do start to see those rare items drop, and they're gonna come in masses, you're gonna be able to see your Musashi gradually get stronger and stronger. There are also a few different collabs currently in the game, and equipping all 4 parts of that collab piece is going to allow you to use a unique special move. Now, we've talked about all this looting and getting your character stronger, but what are you gonna be able to use it for? And the answer is going to be PvP. And when it comes to PvP, you're going to have several game modes to choose from. The first is going to be the Coliseum mode, which allows you to build up a mech independently of the story to fight in PvP either casually or ranked. There's also a new game mode called Mega Robo Batrocium, which you can view as like an equalized PvP match with 1v1s, 4-player fight it out till you die battle royale, or 3v3 team matches. Mega Robo Batrocium can be played instantly without even clearing anything in the story. If that's what you're interested in the most, you literally can just boot up the game, hit the menu, and get straight into the equalized PvP. Now, in Mega Robo Batrocium, there's going to be 6 different types of classes essentially that you can choose from, each with unique features and specializations, so you'll be able to guarantee that you find one that does fit your playstyle. I honestly had so much fun doing 1v1s, and I really could just sit there and run 1v1s all day. So if you haven't already, I really recommend picking up Megaton Musashi Wired, especially now because it's going to be 50% off until December 4th using the link in the description down below. Unicorn Overlord is a tactical JRPG and one of my biggest surprises of 2024. Unicorn Overlord wasn't really on my radar, so when I saw such positive feedback, I was extremely happy. Nothing to me feels better than being able to go into an amazing game without waiting years to get your hands on it and having to watch the game go through an entire development cycle. It's just boom, oh wait, that game was good? I can play it, as opposed to now I have to wait 2 years once I see the trailer to actually get my hands on it. The art direction caught me by surprise, and I would say is one of the standout features that separates Unicorn Overlord from other tactical JRPGs. It also unlocked a memory that was like super deep and suppressed back in my brain, and it reminds me of an old game I used to play called Adventure Quest when you get into his battle sequence. Now for the story, you take on the role of an exiled Prince Elaine, who's gonna lead a liberation army in a campaign to reclaim the kingdom. The story can be pretty straightforward, but where this game shines is gonna be the depth of strategy that the gameplay takes for you to progress through it. Your army starts small, but as you traverse the world and reclaim the different territories, you're gonna gain valor, which is going to allow you to recruit more members and build out a stronger army. I'm a big fan of tactical JRPGs personally, and I just love that strategic element of leading an army in grid-based combat. Now, that doesn't necessarily apply to Unicorn Overlord. They take a gameplay loop and put like a much welcome twist on that genre by shifting a lot of the strategy into team building and the placement of your units, as opposed to everything taking place on the grid. Unicorn Overlord combat mixes real-time strategy as you navigate the maps and automated turn-based combat once your units are engaged in battle. Even though battles are automated, you'll still have a little bit of control over it by setting skill priorities for characters when they engage in battle. Each unit can consist of 5 characters arranged in a 2x3 grid. The character you designate to lead the unit will determine how fast the unit can move around the map and the support abilities they possess. Each character has a specified class that has different strengths and weaknesses, allowing for more strategic customization of how you build units in your army. For example, a cleric unit lead will allow you to heal other allied units, while a gladiator unit lead will be able to break barricades easier. You can easily find yourself lost in team buildings for hours just for the game to throw you a random curveball once you enter battle. Unicorn Overlord, I say it is a really great option for someone looking for a tactical JRPG with a unique art direction. Persona 3 Reload is obviously a remake of Persona 3. But it changes the gameplay to be more in the light of Persona 5. There are still debates on what is the definitive way to play Persona 3, but if you're new to the franchise or you've only played Persona 5, I don't think playing Persona 3 Reload is going to be a bad option for you. For those of you that don't know, and this is probably no one, but the Persona formula combines slice of life high school social simulation activities with turn-based dungeon crawling. Now, Persona 3 Reload and Granblue Fantasy Relink came out within 24 hours of each other, so JRPG fans had to pick one and eventually go back to the other. I ended up choosing Granblue Fantasy Relink, but as soon as I had time, I made sure to come back to Persona 3 Reload. The story centers around a high school transfer student who finds himself involved in a phenomenon known as the Dark Hour. Now, during the Dark Hour, most humans are going to be unconscious and in coffins, and creatures called shadows start to emerge and roam around. When people are attacked by shadows during the Dark Hour, they sometimes suffer from a condition called apathy syndrome once the Dark Hour is over. This leaves them in this like lethargic, energyless state, and they're unable to interact with the world around them. As the main character, you discover that you have abilities to summon a persona, and you join a group called SEES or CEASE, a group of students that are going to be investigating the Dark Hour, trying to see how they can end it. Now, one thing I appreciated about Persona 3 Reload is that all of the social links are fully voice acted. Persona games can be very heavy on the reading side of things, so to me personally, the more voice acting the better, and probably the higher chance that I'll finish the game. If you're looking for a thought-provoking experience while enjoying an amazing OST, then Persona 3 Reload is definitely the game you need to be picking up on sale. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the second game in the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy and a strong contender for Game of the Year. Needless to say, since this is the second game in the trilogy, you'll need to play the first one to really understand what's going on here. And well, honestly, even then you still might have a hard time keeping up. Shit, like I played the first game and I played the second game, and towards the end of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I still had very little clue about what was happening and what I just watched until I watched a video explain it on YouTube. Now, I won't talk about the story too much, but I will say that if you didn't play the original Final Fantasy VII, you'll need to pay extremely close attention to detail to keep up with the overarching plot. The things that are going to be in front of you are going to be pretty easy to keep up with and follow what they actively have you doing, but the overarching plot that's taking place in the background can be a bit much. But once I got spoon-fed videos to me on YouTube, I was amazed with how many things I didn't catch and how unique and different the story is and where they're taking it compared to the original Final Fantasy VII. The gameplay and like the immediate plot that's in front of you, it kept me captivated throughout the entire experience. The first game had the perfect blend of action and turn-based combat, and I was honestly amazed with how smoothly this system was, and they found a way to improve on it even more with the second installment. Now, when it comes to the environment, it's not fully open world, but it is very vast, and the areas are just filled with things that you want to explore, and everything that you can explore contains content that you can do that's not related to the main story. One quick deviation, and you could find yourself exploring the open world, gathering resources, doing intel fights, or playing mini games for hours on end. I feel like the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy is a no-brainer to pick up on sale, so I won't talk much about it here because it is a second installment and I don't want to spoil anything. But if you haven't played the first one, take care of that first and then get to this one. You probably can get a nice deal and get them both for very cheap. Granblue Fantasy Relink at launch, bro, was a one-of-a-kind experience. But post-launch, I do recommend still picking this game up, just with a few caveats. Granblue Fantasy Relink offers 100+ hours of post-game content and about 15 hours of a single-player main story. Initially, the post-game content was designed to be primarily like an online experience, similar to Monster Hunter, taking on different raids with friends. Now, since launch, there haven't been continuous updates, so the population has died down significantly, but when the game goes on sale, like it likely will be when this game is out, the population generally spikes. Jumping into the post-game content now, you can expect to play most of it with an AI party, but this is entirely doable, and actually some players at launch even preferred this method and treated it like an extension of the main story. The post-game content is pretty fun, with a lot of it being set up like a raid in an MMO, and obviously it's even funner if you can get a group of friends to play with you. The bosses can vary from dragons to griffins, or from one boss to multiple bosses at once, and playing this with an AR party would require you to gear out multiple characters with in-game equipment, so it can start to be a bit of a grind when you think of this as a fully solo experience, but I do know a lot of people did enjoy that type of progression and like the challenge of gearing out your character, making a cool party, and seeing the way that they kind of synergize with one another and how they progress as you equip better gear to them. You'll be able to pick to fill that party from a large roster of characters who all play entirely different, and you can fill out your party of 4. There are, I believe, 22 different characters to choose from, and generally all of them have a unique mechanic that sets them apart from the rest of the cast. Additionally, you can build each character in a different way with the sigil system, so you can have a character play different than the developers intended to by the way that you have their sigils equipped and the different abilities that you have equipped and you're slotted for, and this allows you to further customize your character at a character level. So there's a decent variety of different playstyles, like I said earlier, instead of just locking you into the roles defined by the developers. Now, this isn't a game I recommend purchasing anywhere close to full price, but if you can catch it on a solid sale, there's a chance you can start with a fresh wave of new players who are looking to party up and go into this experience and make some friends. Visions of Mana is a game with an extremely vibrant and beautiful art style that masks its somewhat dark story. The story follows Val, who is responsible for escorting the alms to the Mana Tree. Now, alms are going to be young adults who are exclusively selected by an element to sacrifice themselves to maintain the stability within their land. While the majority of the game, the party walks around extremely happy to sacrifice themselves for the greater good, it's hard to overlook the somber adventure that they're on. When viewing the scenery of Visions of Mana, it's hard not to draw comparisons in my head to a game like Xenoblade Chronicles. The environmental settings always looked immaculate, like something that you can just walk up to and explore if you ran long enough. Even though that isn't the case, it's kind of a hard thing to explain, but if you've played Xenoblade Chronicles, you know exactly what I'm saying. Combat is going to be action-based and utilizes the Mana series' signature ring system to cast abilities and use items. The elements also bleed over into the gameplay, allowing each character to unlock a different class based on the elemental vessel that they have equipped. Each character has 8 different classes that are going to change based on the elemental vessel that they have equipped, and depending on which one that is, it's going to change your costume, potentially your weapon, and always your playstyle of how you play that character. Combat can start a little bit clunky in the beginning, but once you start to unlock more skills and tweak a few camera settings, it really shines as like that simple yet fun action-based JRPG. Trails Through Daybreak is part of the much-loved Legends of Heroes franchise. People generally stray away from this series because there are so many games that are involved to be caught up with everything that's going on. Although many people argue that you should start from the first sequential game, the story is told in arcs, with each arc starring a new cast of characters within the same overarching world. This means that the beginning of each arc offers a unique entry point to be thrown into this incredible universe to see if you like it. That being said, Trails Through Daybreak is the beginning of the next arc. I had never played a Legend of Heroes games, so Trails Through Daybreak was my entry point, and I'll say that I had a decent enjoyable experience and I didn't feel lost. Trails Through Daybreak follows the story of Van, working as a mix between like a detective and a bounty hunter, doing odd jobs for all of the clients around the Calvard Republic. Van is hired by our second protagonist, Agnes, to help find an orbiment called the Octogenesis, which was created by her late great-grandfather Claude Obstein, one of the greatest scientists in history throughout the verse of the Legend of Heroes franchise. Very early on, we find that this item has all sorts of odd powers, and in that scientist's notes, her grandpa, he warns Agnes that she needs to collect all 8 of these Octogenesis before a certain date, and that's what kickstarts the journey between Van and Agnes, who are joined by several new characters that join along the way. Combat in Trails Through Daybreak is divided into 2 modes, action-based and turn-based combat. I know it was before Metaphor, but I'm gonna say similar to Metaphor Refantazio, but with less depth. Boss battles are fought in turn-based combat, but aside from that, you're pretty much able to seamlessly swap between the 2 at will based on your preference. The second game in this arc will be releasing sometime in 2025, so now's a better time than ever to give this one a try, dip your little toes in the universe to see if you like it, and if you do, jump all in because you have a sequel coming later this year. Yakuza is a franchise you've probably heard of. They have a ton of games, but Yakuza Like a Dragon acts as kind of like a soft reboot for the franchise because it introduces a new protagonist, but is still within the same universe as the overarching Yakuza series. Like a Dragon was also released in that February window where we got Persona 3 Reload, Granblue Fantasy Relink, so this is yet another game that you might have overlooked because of the competition. For those new to the Yakuza franchise, with Yakuza, you can pretty much expect several random over-the-top and funny odd gameplay moments that are built into the story where you're just wondering like, what is going on and how did I get here? It's worth noting though that this is the Yakuza franchise's first attempt at a turn-based battle system, with all previous installments being action-based. You're going to be able to have party members equipped with different classes and use surrounding items either as weapons or to throw at enemies. Whenever you need to take a break from the main story, you'll also have several mini games varying from karaoke to even a money management simulator to keep you entertained and having fun. Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake, that is a mouthful, is a remake of the original Dragon Quest III with a whole new revitalized 2D look and some modernized quality of life features. It does stick closely to its roots, so if you're really looking for a nostalgic rush, then this is the game for you. But if you're looking for more of a modern JRPG, this one probably isn't your cup of tea, and you might like really want to revisit some of the other games on this list. Combat is turn-based with the first-person view with static battle sequences. In addition to that though, there's an expanded storyline, new dungeons, and the monster wrangler class, which is what they did to add fresh content to differ from the original game. Since the Dragon Quest III remake just came out, it may take a little bit for this to go on sale, but that's okay. The rest of the Erdwin trilogy is going to release sometime in 2025 with this same updated look, so you do have a little bit of time to wait. These are going to be my top 10 JRPGs of 2024 that I recommend buying on sale. And also don't forget that you can pick up Megaton Musashi Wired for 50% off until December 4th using the link in the description down below. Thank you again to Level 5 for sponsoring this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.